It was sometime in January 2020 when the news was going around the world that there was a new virus coming out of China. So on this day, I was just in my consulting room waiting for patients to come when I decided to just go to Google, like most of us do, just to keep myself updated on the information. Wash our hands, use the hand sanitizer, wear face masks. People were even wearing gloves all over the place. And then the lockdown started, something most of us have never witnessed in our lives. Now, there was no way the lockdown could continue. The only way forward for us to continue to live our lives was for there to be some form of prevention. And prevention meant that we had to take a vaccine.
Now, there is no compulsion in taking the vaccine, but the aim of this interview is to try to increase our knowledge base so that everyone can take an informed decision. And to help us do that, I'm going to be talking with somebody who I respect a lot, who is highly cerebral, who is a double doctor. He's Dr. Stanley Meribe. He's a technical specialist in medical and scientific affairs. He holds an MBBS degree and he also holds a PhD in life sciences. His areas of expertise are clinical pathology, viral immunology, which is why we are bringing him here today because they've done a lot of studying on vaccines, science and regulation, and also global and public health. So we're going to be asking him very pertinent questions about the COVID-19 vaccine. A lot of people have asked us questions, so we're going to be talking to someone who has a lot of experience in that field to help us answer some of these questions. So wherever you're watching from, I want us to just quickly welcome Dr. Stanley Meribe. Dr. Stanley, thank you very much for joining me on this interview.
Thank you, Dr. Zinne. I'm glad to be on your platform. It's an honor.
We're going to quickly go into the interview proper. And I think we should just have a background by understanding exactly how vaccines are made, really. So how are vaccines made?
The process of vaccine making could be complex, but I will try as much as I can to, break it down for maybe so that a layperson, can easily follow, understand what we are discussing about. Vaccine development usually takes about 10 years or more, and there are various or different stages in the development. One is to identify the target disease that you want to develop a vaccine for. And in this case, the developers will have a specific disease they want to develop a vaccine for. And there are usually factors which influence the decision to pick a particular disease. Some of these could depend on the prevalence of the disease, funds available to them for research, and also the ability to recoup their investments and so on. So, because it's also a business, pharmaceutical companies are not for-profit organizations, so they also hope to be able to recoup their investments. The other aspect of it is research and exploration. Once you've identified the disease you want to embark on vaccine study development for, so which the research can last for several years as the researchers try to understand or study the genetic structure of the organism that causes the particular disease of interest. They also try to understand the active genetic region of the organism that gives it the ability to cause disease in humans, which we usually call functional regions of the genome. And that could be an area that is or designed to be targeted, or will be designed, the vaccine will be designed to target to be able to destroy the organism. This functional region also is the region that elicits the strongest immune response. And in the context of immune response generation, developers utilize basically two systems, or maybe two systems, I would say. One is the conventional or vector-based system, and the other one is the mRNA-based system. Let me talk first on the conventional or vector-based system here. This system utilizes the live organism as a component of the vaccine to be injected um, into our bodies, or you could use an attenuated or the killed organism, as part of the vaccine component. The aim of this is to stimulate the human body or the host to produce or learn how to make antibodies to defend itself from that organism whenever it encounters it in our body. Then the other one, which is a fairly new system, is the mRNA-based system, which has helped during this COVID-19 for the vaccine development. The mRNA-based system is not a new system. I know people have asked, why, how, the system was just developed within this period. This is something that the research started since 1980s by some researchers in at the University of British Columbia during their research that focused on lipids. Since then, more than 100 researchers across the world have worked on the mRNA system to explore its importance in medicine until around 2010, 2015, when it became obvious that it could be a success for new vaccine development. This system carries or encodes the genetic particle of the organism in question and then transcribes it into a protein inside the cell to be able to mimic the disease, then enabling the immune system to generate antibodies that will destroy the real organism whenever it is encountered in the body.
Okay, so I think we need to explain this. For me, this is news that research has really been done a lot on mRNA vaccine. And so what this basically means is that this mRNA is like the particle of the virus, right?
It gets into the body, it is transcribed into protein, and then it becomes the antigen that the body is going to look out for in order to produce antibodies.
Okay. So basically what the vaccines do is to make our bodies to form antibodies, against the virus. So if you encounter the virus, you will now be able to have something to fight the virus, right?
Yes, vaccines actually, as you said, they prepare the body or stimulate the body to produce antibodies or memory antibodies. They stay in the body, and whenever such an organism that they have produced antibodies for is encountered in the body, they now can attack it en masse and destroy the organism before the organism destroys this human system.
Okay. So it's just like what we notice in some diseases. For instance, if you've had measles before, you've had chickenpox before, you realize that if you remain healthy, you may never have this infection again because your body has now developed antibodies against it. So even when you come in contact with someone that has chickenpox or someone that has measles, you find out that your body is able to fight it. You don't have the infection. Is that the same way it works?
Exactly. What the some infections are able to grant you natural immunity upon reinfection because you're able to develop memory antibodies that are described as lifelong antibodies. So they are in the system, they can live for many years. So whenever a second round or reinfection is encountered, those antibodies are able to protect you.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, this brings me to the next question because, like you said, now this research on mRNA vaccines, on vaccines generally, has been on for years. How come the COVID-19 vaccine came out so fast?
The thing is that the science behind the different COVID-19 vaccines have been developed several years ago. Remember, there are so many organisms within the coronavirus family, like the SARS virus of 2003, the MERS virus of 2012, and all these have previous coronavirus infections or epidemics in the past helped researchers be able to map the genome or the functional regions of this coronavirus family group of organisms. So after these two several epidemics, the SARS virus of 2003 and the MERS virus of 2012, the NIH and Moderna have been collaborating on a vaccine that can utilize the mRNA technology since 2014. The functional regions, as we know, of the coronavirus family has already been mapped or established. And what possibly also played a role in this time is that there is a pandemic, because the approval process was also fast tracked, and lots of bottlenecks that previously slowed down vaccine approval were also eliminated during this period.
Okay, so if I understand better, so that our viewers can understand, the coronavirus family, as in that's what we call coronavirus, has a lot of other viruses that look like this COVID-19 virus, right?
Yes.
So, and for a while now, especially when we had those SARS that happened in 2003 and co, they've already been studying the virus. So it's not as if they didn't understand the virus. But so that people don't misunderstand and think that the SARS-CoV-2, that's the virus that causes COVID-19, has been there in the lab for a while. It's just what we are trying to say here is that viruses that are similar to this SARS-CoV-2, that is the virus that causes COVID-19, they have been studied. So that is why it
Yeah,
was like, yeah, it was,
researchers have been studying them.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the information about the virus isn't entirely new to them, even though this particular one, this strain, is new. But members of his family have been previously identified.
Okay, that's great. So we've known the, like, let's say the extended family. So before we saw this new one, we've already understood it. And
Yeah.
okay, so that's great to understand. And then, like you said, something, everything was fast tracked, seeing that this was a pandemic. So certain things that would have been on somebody's file for a week, it had to be on. People were working overnight to ensure that giving themselves long hours to ensure that the world could be given something that could help to manage this virus. Because the thing is, if you've not seen somebody that has COVID-19, it may look like a scam, it may look like it doesn't exist. But if you've lost a loved one to the virus, or you've had the virus and you saw how down it made you, then you realize that no, this is not a scam. It's like maybe somebody living in the Western world hasn't seen polio, so they may not know how devastating polio virus can be. And but for the vaccine on polio, many people would have really been crippled today.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so now let's go on to the next one. People say they have side effects. I've seen people that have fever. I've seen people that even had diarrhea. They couldn't come to work for 2, 3 days. I had a friend that even had to cancel her flight. She was that ill. She couldn't travel. She couldn't make it to the airport and had to pay to cancel her flight. Now, seeing that this COVID-19 vaccine has this myriad of side effects, do you think it's safe?
One thing is this: every drug has a side effect, and these are known as adverse events.
Okay.
Just take out for example, a leaflet of paracetamol and read the patient prescribing information leaflet inside it. After reading that, you may even not want to take paracetamol again. So regulatory bodies like the FDA require prescription drug manufacturers to list all possible side effects of any drug prior to approval for use in humans, irrespective of the incidence of those side effects, no matter how small also you think the side effect is an FDA requirement that pharmaceutical companies list all those. Another thing, that a vaccine has some adverse events doesn't invalidate its efficacy. These adverse events could range from maybe um, mild fever, rash, or body aches, or to serious adverse events like seizure and life-threatening allergic reactions. These adverse events also occur because the body is also identifying the vaccine consequence as a foreign body. So the more aggressive the foreign body or infection, the more aggressive is the immune response that the body would mount. As the body is mounting immune responses, immune chemicals in the form of cytokines are also released, and depending on the pre-exposure situation of the foreign body, whether new or pre-exposed antigen, this would also determine the aggressiveness of the immune reaction that will be taking place. And the amount of immune chemicals released and the way the body is able to handle it may also lead to varied levels of adverse events experienced by individuals. So most of the adverse events is because your body is trying to also respond not really because the constituent of the drug is inimical to your system. However, before the approval of different COVID-19 vaccines by the FDA, it was also ensured that the risk of adverse events resulting from vaccination is minimal compared to the risk of not being um, vaccinated.
Yeah. So
And
that
if you
that
if you
that
also um, understand, most of the vaccines we are giving EUA, which is called emergency use authorization in drug approval processes.
okay. Dr.
And
Stanley,
that is
thank you.
because we also in a pandemic.
Yeah. Thank you very much for answering many of these questions. If any of you viewers watching, you have any questions, please do well to drop it in the comment section and we'll try as much as possible to answer it. So now we've understood that one of the reasons why the vaccine was able to come out early is that other members of the COVID-19 family, let's say the brothers and sisters of COVID-19 virus, they've already been known. We've heard about them, you know, and so this virus they already knew something about his genetics, really. And people worked hard day and night to ensure that this thing came out on time. So that the world could go back. Just imagine if we had been on the pandemic for 1 year. I'm sure people would have still dying of starvation to no longer have been COVID-19 anymore. And like Dr. Stanley has helped us to understand, vaccines have every drug has a side effect. If you're a parent and you're taking your children for their immunization, you would have realized that that night can be very bad. They may not be able to sleep. The children may be running temperature, very irritable. It's just that the body is trying to create um, chemicals that will actually be able to fight this organism, the germs, if the individual should get exposed to them again. So this takes us to our last question for today. If you have another question, you can always drop it in the comment section. Some people have also said that one of the things to prove that this vaccine is not safe is that people that have been immunized have been advised not to donate blood. So, what do you have to say about that?
I don't think that assertion is correct. There is no restriction to blood donation after getting a COVID-19 jab. In
Okay.
most countries, blood donation regulators do not place any deferral period before blood donation after receiving any non-replicating, inactivated, or the mRNA-based COVID-19 vaccines. That is, we need to be clear about that. This is because the COVID-19 vaccine quickly breaks down within the body after vaccination, and there is no evidence that vaccinated individuals transfer any of the vaccine components to blood recipients. However, there are some rules that should be followed. Um, One, before you donate blood, you should ordinarily meet blood donation eligibility criteria, whether you have received COVID-19 before or not. Secondly, you should not have COVID-19 symptoms prior to your blood donation. The third one is that you should also be able to provide the name of the manufacturer of the COVID-19 vaccine that you received. If you don't know the name of the manufacturer of the vaccine you received, you should wait for at least 2 weeks post vaccination before blood donation.
Oh,
So those are just the things that should be noted. Not that anyone who has received COVID-19 vaccine shouldn't or is not eligible to donate blood.
that's very vital information that we've had here. So, I want to thank you, Dr. Stanley, for coming to join us today. At least we've gained a lot of insights on the COVID-19 vaccine. So, like we said earlier, the choice is up to you. Do you want to get vaccinated? And the more people that get vaccinated, the less the infection will spread. Just like what we've achieved with polio. If you see someone that's had polio before, it takes a lot for you to have that level of physical disability and still people are doing it, but it actually does take a lot to be able to do something with your life. So just imagine we have fewer infections, people are able to go about their lives, people are able to live their lives to the fullest because a lot of people are being cut down in their 40s, in their 50s when they come down with this infection. And it's very expensive to treat these days. In Nigeria here, initially the government was taking care of the bills, but now everybody is carrying it on, is paying their bills by themselves. So the onus is up to you to not just take sensational information. I know some things you see on Instagram or social media, they may sound very stimulating that this person died after taking COVID-19. Did you really see the person's medical report to be sure that it's COVID-19 that killed the person? So sometimes it's good to ask questions more. And so I want to thank Dr. Stanley for coming here today, taking time out of his busy schedule to answer a few of these questions so that we can take better decisions.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right.
I'm honored. You're your
Thank
platform.
You. Thank you.